Okay, everyone, welcome back to the third cut section of AirMech Talk episode 6. So we're going to move on to the next topic, and that's going to be the ping/flag, because apparently people got confused with the word ping and thought it had to do with latency. Ping flag system and voice communication. Communicating through text chat in a game as fast-paced as AirMech sometimes becomes more burdensome than helpful. By hitting the Z key, we can ping our current location, and it is much quicker to execute, but the amount of information we can pass through that system is very limited. Requests have been made to both improve this system and introduce voice chat in-game, but due to other priorities, neither of these have seen much attention. StarDog, how can in-game communication systems be improved, and how big of an impact could these improvements have?
I am inclined to agree, and I'm sure everyone is, that if there was a voice communication system built into AirMech, it'd be a lot easier. Typing, of course, it doesn't take too much time, but it's still beneficial, I think. As far as the ping system goes, I've never thought of it really. I've used it from time to time when I really am just lazy to type. And ping usually gets people to look at their mini-map at least, and if it's pretty obvious, most of the time they'll come to my help, or depending on the teammates. But yeah, the ping system itself, I don't know what they could do to make it more accessible, or I guess more information, give it more information to your allies. But yeah, the basic thing that it is right now, I think it's fine.
Boomhower?
Okay, well, I was basing the fact off that, like, Dota, like, they have their own, like, ping system, but you're able to move your vision around, like, anywhere, though, so, and I'll just, like, ping anywhere on the minimap, because some people, like, they're really slow, like me, for example, they just, like, don't even realize, like, oh, you're pinging, what do you want? They fly over to them, and just, like, what, I don't see anything on the other side of the map, it's just, like, all your stuff is dying, and just go. And yeah, the in-game voice, as you said, that helps a lot. And like just randomly talking to just random people, it helps a lot. Like, I used to play Xbox, and I just randomly talk to people in, like, Halo and, like, Call of Duty, and, like, the talking just, like, helps so much more than just, like, not talking, and just, like, using the third-party voice system. You actually have to know that person and get them to join, compared to just, like, hopping in your mic and talking to some random guy, and then you make friends easier too. Even just typing, I guess. I'm a really slow typer because I suck at computer, and yeah. But like, it's just so much easier to just to talk than it is to stop and type, like, seconds. Like, the sec could be the difference between a win and a loss. Like, that one tank could be the difference between victory and defeat. Like, I know it's exaggerating. It's very rare, quite often it's not gonna happen, but it's still quite possible that it could happen. And voice would be awesome in game. Also make a lot more friends. Like, a lot more people would talk to you more, probably.
If it was introduced to, more people would be inclined to stay and play the game more. But I don't know. I think that's just my opinion.
There's that social aspect with voice chat.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, the nice thing about
oh, go ahead.
The nice thing about it, though, is you're just talking to random people, and you don't even meet them most of the time, like a second time. So you just, like, speak your mind, and it's just, like, it lets you open up so much. And then if you, like, play with them a couple times, you eventually be friends, and, like, you play with each other more, compared to just, like, hey, you want to be my teammate? Yeah, sure, let's do the next tournament together.
I actually think Arena has voice comm now, right? I think they just in the title update voice comm. I thought in the title update, I thought it introduced it. I'm not sure. But I thought I heard that, or I inferred it from what I read.
I'm not too sure myself. Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention, I've been playing AirMech Arena. I don't know if that was needed earlier.
We can talk about
Yeah,
that
yeah.
at the end, I guess. So yeah, Insomniac, any thoughts on how to improve current in-game communication, just the in-game versions?
Yeah, besides you guys covered all the voice chat stuff, I do have kind of an answer for that. That they could implement, I don't think it would be too hard, is looking at first-person shooters like Counter-Strike, where you actually can hit like the Z key or whatever. We can use the ping key, and what happens is a little text menu pops up, like 1 through 5, in different messages, like pre-made messages, can be selected. So you hit like your ping key, whatever that is, if it's custom or whatever, and then you hit 1, and 1 is pre-made to bring infantry, and that's what the text message is that your teammates see, and maybe a unique icon for that message. And they could even do quick little soundbite, short sound bites of, you could actually hear the voice, get infantry. They could hire someone for sound for practically nothing. I'm sure they could get a player to do it if someone's good at voice acting stuff. But you could do, bring infantry, bring artillery, I need help over here, you could do high-low, and like high-low and you go low, and that could be a single message. Or you could let people custom it. I don't know. But I think that's the best way to go, is little text menus.
Yeah, like a radial dial. I mean, this has been suggested a few times before. I think once by you, but yeah, I know that it's been mentioned that a lot of other games have this system too, just to have preset messages that you'd use a lot. So yeah, that would be pretty cool. I don't know if you mentioned it, Boomhower, but I thought you were talking to me before about being able to ping the minimap directly.
Oh yeah. Like just like push to this like outposts, like specifically like Dota. Like I've mentioned that Dota does it, but the like other game, but you can move your entire screen in Dota, which is different compared to AirMech. You have to actually fly over there and like check out what's happening. So you can like ping to a specific area of the minimap, like to tell your teammate to go scout that area or
Sort of
something.
like,
but
like right click it or something.
no, like yeah, like you hit like a button, like say Q, and then like or tab, and then you click on the minimap, and yeah, something like that. Or you can and like I think StarCraft does it, but they have a circle next to the minimap which you can click on and ping the minimap.
Yeah, that would probably be really, really helpful in AirMech. Yeah, I mean, and StarCraft is not necessarily a team game. Like, I think it's balanced around 1v1, right? So AirMech is sort of trying to be balanced around all modes, I guess, with more priority in team modes. But yeah, it's just because that AirMech is more team oriented. I think it would be great if we had that. Okay, guys, so let's move on to the first of your question. We actually have quite a lot of them today. The first one is from Fat Asian Beast. What hotkeys do you use, and what advantages do you gain from them? For example, how is assigning the patrol waypoint command to the middle mouse beneficial? And Insomniac was supposed to get this one, so I will give this to StarDog.
Okay. How is it beneficial? Well, I have to know the default, actually. Does anyone know that? The default for how to do that? Or it's actually shift, wasn't it?
It's
shift
shift and right click. Yeah, because the set a patrol waypoint under you does not have a default binding. You have to customize it.
Okay. Yeah, alright. Yeah, definitely. Something like that, where it's the same as the menu. If you don't know that the keys 1 to 8 will actually build things without you having to stop moving, if you're using the menu and you have to stop, and then you find out the hotkeys, you'll think to yourself, oh wow, I can save a lot of time if I do it like that. So, I mean, yeah, it's very, very beneficial. Just saving time, kind of thing. And as well as the patrol points, the controller by themselves too. They had a default for it. Silbermutt, I think, was probably one of the first people to actually use and abuse that feature. And me personally, I use H just because it just sits there next to G. But that's just me. You just spam G and then you go around and spam H to patrol. But yeah.
Boomhower.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna speak from like a Valorant. Like I'm gonna use him as reference. What he does is he basically puts all of his buttons as close to his fingers as he can, without so he doesn't have to look at the keyboard to use everything. Like on the other side, like you have your like your I don't know, whatever the other buttons do. But he basically has Q, E, R, F, V, C, X, Z, and Tab, Shift, Cap locks 1, 2, 3, 4. All that you can reach with your left hand. You can. He has those all do keys, and like I think it's real smart. And using the middle mouse button is also very smart too. So yeah.
I missed the question.
Hotkeys. What hotkeys do you use, or could be used, and what how does it work to your advantage?
I feel like mostly it's about familiarity. I don't have any. I know I have some, but I don't remember what I've changed because I don't change mine that often. Like, I change things like once and then that's it. But it's about, like what Boomhower was saying, it's all about what's within reach of your hand and without having to stretch your hand out over the place. What's important to me is the fact that I can keep using like the move keys while I'm doing something else, hitting other buttons or whatever. Like, I don't want to have to like stop moving so I can give orders or some BS. That's what's most important to me. Eventually, I actually plan on getting a gaming mouse just to do shortcuts for that.
Yeah, I do want to mention that I actually have a gaming mouse. I put a lot of shortcuts on it, but actually before I had my gaming mouse, I just used a regular mouse that I think it just had a double click button on the side or something like that. So I only had like one button to customize, and I highly recommend, because a lot of people use the number pad to build, and you have to take your hand off the mouse to use that number pad, and in AirMech, if you're an experienced player, you get really used to moving your hand from your mouse to the number pad and then back really fast. So I actually would recommend, which is what I did before I had a gaming mouse, to use the other keys on the gaming pad on the number pad, such as 5, which is an obvious choice, but there's also 0. I'm gonna look down at my number pad right now. 0, the decimal point, enter, num plus, num minus, there's the asterisk, a slash, and there's even the numlock key. Depending on what kind of keyboard you have, you might have extra keys in that area also, but it's just right there. You might even be able to stretch your thumb out and just tap the enter key or the plus key, and it's really great to have those a couple quick buttons for that. I personally put orders on my mouse. My gaming mouse buttons, and I also have I have push to talk, repeat build, path drawing, and mass command on my thumb buttons because I have 4. But if you don't have that, yeah, I highly recommend trying to use number pad. Fat Asian Beast is saying, I was asking for more hotkey builds. I'm not really sure what that means.
Oh, so he was asking for like specific sort of ways to make the game easier.
I don't know. I mean, I thought Boomhower went over that with what he described that Valinor does, was try to put everything on the left side, of the keyboard, right next to your hand. Is that what were you thinking, StarDog?
No, actually, yeah, that's right. I think, yeah, follow Boomhower's reference Valinor, which is Valinor uses a sort of a custom build around his left hand for WASD all around that, so that he has access to everything that's pretty close to fingers. So he'll have to stretch out his hand and whatnot.
You see, I personally like having things on the number pad because it's right hand instead of everything on your left hand. Like, if I have to stop moving frequently, I find that that's more detrimental than stopping to shoot. Like, stop. So like, I still have build things on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for now. and I haven't really changed it that much because I got really used to it first hitting 1 and 2 for I guess at the time, and even still now, I have them as my infantry and tank buttons. So those are really popular. And yeah, that's just something that I would recommend, is using things on your right hand. I mean, if you are trying to harass and move around, then I guess it is kind of good to just be able to have everything on your left hand so you can continue shooting. But I think that mostly applies to builds and not building things and not orders. So if you can keep everything 1, 2, 3, 4, and even maybe replace, I think Annihilator said this himself, is Q, E, R, and either Tab or C or something like that. So building hotkeys I think would be great on the left side. But in terms of orders, I think it would be highly beneficial to have the equivalents for attack, capture, hold position, all that stuff on the right side of your keyboard with the number pad. That's just my opinion. Alright guys, let's go on to the next question. And that is from Insomniac, actually. So he's on the panel, which is a little hilarious, but he also loves to ask questions, so we're going to go with it, and it's about opinions on different playstyles in the game. So, in each panelist's opinion, are dynamic, aggressive games as good or better than slow and steady push-pull matches? Is skill or personality that affects playstyle, or limits it? StarDog.
I'm sorry. Okay, repeat that again.
Basically, are dynamic, aggressive games better or as good, or as the kind of steady push and pull matches? And what determines that? Is it skill or personality or whatever?
Well, okay. I'll be biased about this. Personally, the aggressive style, sort of keeping it dynamic and I guess pushes and keeping the action going. I like that style. Fuck. Okay, hold on. That style's OP. That style needs to be used more. I like that style. That's just it. But between players, though, how they're affected and how they play and whatnot, I think between the being able to push and the slow and steady thing, they should still exist if you choose to play it like that. But yeah, and keep it balanced. One shouldn't reign over the other. But if one is played out better, that's they should win. That's really it, I guess, for me.
Boomhower.
I don't know, I tried to play both, and I don't know which one I like. Both aggressive and defensive. I tried to play both back when I played that, but I'll go with whatever StarDog said.
Okay.
Oh wow. I'm gonna have Oh, go ahead.
No, yeah, I was just saying, like, being aggressive though, just the way the game is right now. If you're playing aggressive a lot, I find that it circumvents a lot of problems in the game right now. Not problems, but sort of exploits or complaints. Yeah, exactly. Angel being a very general one right now. I guess it's another one. If someone went Beppo, Hog, everything heavy units, being aggressive and not slow pushing sort of counters that, like, even more. That's a really bad example, but yeah, it filters out a lot of things that could be considered OP right now. And yeah, and as it is when you are aggressive, there really isn't too much complaint, much as I know right now. Like, I know Morty's was a thing, being aggressive with those, but that's a different thing in itself. That was meant to counter turtling. I believe anyway. That's like mass clump and stupid and whatnot, but whatever.
I'm gonna have Insomniac answer his own question. Insomniac.
Well, I think whoever submits this question was a genius, but let me get on to answering the question. I'd think to say that it's hard to split the two between personality and skill sometimes, because I feel like some of the slower play favors people who can't handle multiple things going on at once as well. I've seen people play super aggressive and they're mid-tier and they can do it just fine because aggressive play style sometimes, like the rebel spam meta that we had. But I've found myself that for me it's a personal play style more than skill. I don't even know how to rate my own skill versus other people, but I think I've just been practicing more at dynamic gameplay more than the standard, because I find the slow build up of Tank Seeker Archie, like, it's boring. That's what I have to say. It's boring. So I go dynamic, and like StarDog said, it does actually get around some of the problems with, or things you don't like about the current meta. Like my ability to throw someone off from their standard gameplay, where I see good people play, where they just open up on duel with the same opening every time, and they expect the other player to do the same exact thing, and they don't even bother scouting anymore. Like, it's actually a bad habit I've seen a lot more, is just a big lack of scouting, because everyone assumes there's only one way to do it, so that's what they do. So I don't know if that's a skill issue or if it's laziness, or there's a safety thing that, it's a personal thing where people feel safe doing one style of play over another.
Yeah, that's actually kind of what I was going to lead off on. The mentality of a lot of AirMech players, especially the ones that aren't really in the high tiers that can understand how to take advantage of aggressive play. It just, you sort of know what works, or at least have seen what works and what's safe. I think one of the biggest reasons people play defensive style is because it's safe. You can actually, you're not really guaranteed to defeat if you start up an artillery war. It really does depend on who you're playing against and how it's approached. And I try to think back to when I was new. It's really hard, and I know a lot of people kind of can't really do that, especially the people that have been playing for a few years. But when I started casting, I was sort of, I guess, solid mid-tier. I didn't really know what else to do besides what I kind of really have seen, and I didn't really have much understanding about unit interactions and all that stuff. And at that time, I don't even remember what I preferred. I just know now that as biased as a caster, I like seeing dynamic, exciting games rather than more defensive artillery war games. And it's not necessarily that those are a really bad thing. It's just a lot more boring to watch compared to moving, pushing games. And I think it also that kind of does boil down to personality. If you actually know what you're doing and how to take advantage of being aggressive versus being defensive, you know that being defensive is safer, but being aggressive could net you more depending on your timing and all that stuff. And it's gonna be boiling down to a map issue again. That kind of also dictates how you're sort of forced to play, and it's kind of everything boils down to a map issue nowadays, and for a while. So hopefully we'll see different evolution of play styles, or at least more encouraging,
especially
more
with
interesting
pathing.
play. Yeah, especially with the pathing now. However, pathing doesn't. Once again with the current maps, it's just but yeah.
One thing I'd like to add. As mentioned, as between player preferences and whatnot, and maps and whatever, Tangy. Oh, Tangy. He can do whatever he wants just because he can. His style, just from watching his game, I know a lot of people still can't wrap their heads around what he does. But just my take on it. Really, a lot of his timings, when he played, I'm not sure what's right now, were really awkward, but they worked. And it wasn't always aggressive too. They were interesting. Most of his games were interesting. That's just the way it was. But yeah, just for him, it wasn't always aggressive. It was just being able to know sort of, God, this. Nah, see, like, even now, I still can't wrap my head around
No,
it.
I think I understand what you're saying. I mean, I think one of the things, I'm not just saying this is it, but one of the several, many reasons that Tanji has been able to do a lot of the things that we've been flabbergasted about, I think is because he can really, really see how to exploit broken things that no one else can see. You know, and it might be a unit, it might be a mech, it might be a situation, it might be a map, or a part of a map, and that's just one reason that he can, he breaks the game frequently just because he can see these things and just how to exploit things in ways that they haven't been exploited before. And yeah, that's also something that would probably be good for like these random weird traits and exploits that hopefully could make the game more interesting. I don't know. Okay, so let's go on to the next question. It's from the big boss, and it's going to be directed initially to Boomhower. Right now, there is no way to actually stop base damage. If I drop 4 jackals at your fortress in front of 20 tanks, the jackals still get some DPS on your fort. Is this fair? Should you be able to wall up to the point where no shots can get through and hit your fort? Boomhower?
I'm actually very half and half about this. Like, yes and no, because I want to say no, because like then people can just turtle forever, and like you can never stop it, and like they can just ignore their defense for a while, complete offense, and switch complete defense, which I do not like. I think you should be able to backdoor. Like, it should be an option available, because it's happened to me in the past, and I blame Valender for it. But it's not his fault. But anyways, you said the point. But yeah, I think it should be an option no matter what. Like, it should always be available to like squeeze your tanks in and somehow like do fort damage. It becomes a base, and like they're slightly ahead, but you have more base damage in them. Like, I think it should be still a possibility to win, instead of just like turtling up your wall and stuff.
Insomniac?
I'd have to say that the guaranteed damage is something I think is sort of necessary. It didn't used to be this way before. They had sometime last year changed the hitboxes for all the units, where the actual blocking, where the unit actually takes damage is smaller than it is visually. So the hitbox for a Longhorn is like 70% of actual, like, visually how you see it. And they changed that back when people were complaining about single file unit pushes and all that, and it was a way to get around the units run into each other. But it also made it so that when you wall off your fortress, you have these gaps in between. Even though it looks like your units are side by side, you have gaps in there, so you have to like really pack them in. But then they made another mechanical change that I'm not sure, it wasn't really discussed much when it happened, but units kind of stop further out from a fortress when they're on like set on Y and they push up. They stop further out and start firing. So if you want to block those units, you actually have to drop your units directly in front of those units to actually absorb the damage and block the shots, because it's a 3D game. So some of those shots, I think almost, it looks like units are actually firing over the defending units, like directly over them, where like they're firing towards the top of the fortress. I'm not sure about that, but it's what it looks like visually to me. So maybe that's something to free cam to double check. But if units were firing above the defensive units, then that's a whole separate issue that maybe people want to discuss and debate, besides the whole hitbox stuff. But I think overall, I mean, it's a 3D game, so you're going to have gaps in your defense. and I don't think any fort should be completely impenetrable. We have a lunchbox unit if you care about protecting your fortress. If you don't care, don't bring the lunchbox. So,
StarDog.
Honestly, I'm completely the opposite about this. Unless there's a big scenario here that I'm not seeing, and the reason why I disagree is because well, there is the lunchbox, yes, and that's guaranteed to save you some time. But even then, if you're not watching your minimap, if they get through the shield and then you start hearing the noise, then it's already too late. The lunchbox really didn't help you get back to base faster. And the other thing is, if your opponent has turtled up to the point where no matter where you place a unit, it can't attack it, then there's something odd within that game, and why I say it's odd is because by then it's either you have most of the outposts. This is just talking from previous game experience. It's that you either have all of the outposts and there's no overtime damage, or there's no domination, or the opponent hasn't killed you yet, and that's because you keep trying to backdoor and they have health. And in that case, I think being able to block should be a valid strategy.
So do you think that like we should make sure that the hitboxes, because I think it was a lot of work for them, but would you now that we have like our mass commands and our formations and stuff, do you think we should go back to like the larger hitboxes for the units so they like actually block properly and make sure that attacking units at the fortress actually shoot like at their proper elevation and not like slightly up or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, right now I thought it was okay, but now that you mention it, right before the chasm change, and I know this actually because on AirMech Arena, the Xbox game, of course, the Jackals of Chasm still exist. So you still need to leave something at home to kill those off. And yeah, if you don't place the Longhorn or whatever it is you use to defend properly, they will shoot above the unit for some odd reason. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what that is about. I want to say that wasn't on purpose, but what do I know? But yeah, right now, the way it blocks, most of the time, it's not jackals being dropped at fortresses to try and do maximum amount of damage. Of course, unless you're doing derp strats. Then, yeah, using a Longhorn, I guess, to block another tank should be valid, in my opinion. You should be able to block all of it.
So you're saying that any unit ever should be able to be blocked?
Well, not every. I don't know. I mean, like
there's
something
two
like
units I'd say that are unblockable right now, and that's
Well-
artillery, and that's Devastator.
Okay, yeah. Well, artillery in itself, that should be a way to break it. I think.
No,
I'm
but
not-
you can do direct fort damage with them, and it's a very fun thing to do.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that. But yeah, that sounds OP by itself. But yeah, the other thing, Devastator. I wasn't too sure about that either, because I actually haven't used that too much.
You can block a Devastator with the Devastator.
Yeah, that's it. So you can block a Devastator with a Devastator, but other than that, it's taller than all the rest of the mechs,
I'm just
or
qualifying.
the rest of the unit.
I want to actually bring up a concept that was suggested a few times actually, which is the fort comes with an automatic lunchbox, and I know a lot of people kind of said, well, if you want a lunchbox, then bring a lunchbox. So that was one of the arguments against it, and that makes complete sense to me. But then they brought up every other socket unit, and it actually does make sense in terms of that argument that every socket unit is something that the fort can do. Why can't it actually generate a lunchbox or generate a shield or prepare or defend itself in any way, or repair itself in any way? I would be okay with this as long as that shield sucked. Like it just really was for deterring things like light infantry drops or jackal drops on a heavily defended fort already just to get chip damage away. And then the lunchbox would
Are you
just
saying
make it
then
normal.
you are wholly against someone chipping someone's fort health down, or are you looking for like an armor buff for the fortress?
Like a small shield, I guess. Just way worse than a lunchbox. Something like it would take like 20 seconds to recharge or something like that. That would be okay in my book. It wouldn't be the ideal scenario. I would like to see people actually investing in fort in fort defense, and that actually being worth it to invest in. And that's just a concept that a lot of people hate because, like, why should I have to defend my fort? I'm not really exactly sure why people don't think they should need to defend their fort because, I mean, one of the key mechanics in AirMech is picking up and ferrying your units long distances from one post to another or something like that. So I don't really see why the fort should be excluded from that concept. The thing is, a lot of I don't think it should be an option to win just by slowly chipping with cheap, not that really strong units. I think it's I think it's okay that happens. It's just some things are actually really broken, like flamers right now probably needs to be changed. I'm trying to figure out what I would like to propose for that, but in general, I do agree with StarDog. In a case that would actually be a problem where you just have a few jackals putting a tiny bit of damage onto your fort, the problem is not the jackals doing damage. The problem already happened. You really should have never let that happen to begin with. And like, should you be able to dedicate so many credits to fort defense that they can guaranteed not put any damage on your fort by just dropping a small amount of credits worth of units? And I say for the most part that shouldn't be, that would probably be okay, but if it's just a tiny bit of damage that like 20 Longhorn won't kill in like half a second, then once again the problem doesn't lie with the fact that can happen. The problem lies with the entire game flow and what's been happening. Like, the situation itself was your fault probably to begin with. I feel like you want to say something.
My fault?
Alright, we're going to go on to the next question. It's from Fat Asian Beast. Boomhower, are there any alternatives to tanks right now, or will tanks always be a necessity?
Opinion, I think they should always be used. There should always be like an armored unit to like defend your DPS. But they probably won't always be the DPS that you need. Like, turtles might make a comeback, but it might be doubtful. But I guess they could be considered the tank replacement. Then there won't be a DPS. I think I probably will. No. They might in one like a meta here or there. Like, if the turtles ever make a comeback, the Buckies might make a comeback because there's something to tank the shots. So they might not always be a necessity, but they other than that though, they're always gonna be wanted and needed in every game. Other than infantry spam, like the infantry loadouts, those are derpy, but which I think are weird. The mass assassin butcher, I don't understand it, but yeah. Other than that, they will be necessary in my opinion in like every game.
StarDog?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the coffin there. I mean, should
That's terrible.
Be...
No. All right, go ahead.
Anyways, moving on. Yeah, no, the tanks. I mean, I think they should always be a necessity. They're the main sort of unit. I'm sure early beta, obvious alpha, I guess. The Longhorn was probably the very first thing they thought of, a tank main unit. So it's just, I guess, everyone tanks, I guess, especially for RTS-based games, or just RTS in general. There's always some sort of tank unit. And yeah,
Insomniac.
I'd say they're pretty. You're mostly obligated to use them. We've gotten at points where they were less necessary back when we had the rebel spam days. Well, the light unit spam in general for neutralizing outposts. It made things much more fast-paced, where you couldn't just build up all your units at one spot and artillery war or push or whatever, but you had to deal with neutralizations and moving around the map a whole lot more. But as things stand right now, Bucky just got its anti-air removed, so I think it's almost ready back to being used in actual gameplay. And I could see if people practiced enough, they could do some sort of Bucky flacker roller type of deal, along with certain favored infantry and whatnot, and Jackal, of course. You need Jackals, but I've almost described a medium unit loadout right there besides roller, and I think it's almost viable, but it's going to be map dependent mostly, and play style dependent. That's the thing. You can't play different units the way you play your normal units.
I'm gonna address the question directly. Are there any alternatives to tanks? And the answer is pretty much no. In the current game, I'm of the okay. I have this theory that right now, because of paths, the new pathing mechanic, that on specific maps, that jackals could actually are actually probably more powerful than tanks, in my opinion. Like I see the interaction between them, and damage per cost I think is better with jackal versus longhorn. I'm not exactly sure, but I know it's close, if not better. And I do think that with the current pathing mechanic that they now have introduced, that jackal, in the hands of the right person and with enough experience and with enough tactical cleverness, I don't think that's a phrase, but yeah, that jackals could actually replace tanks right now, possibly. I'm not sure, but yeah, as of right now and as of the entire history of AirMech, no, tanks are necessary. Will they always be necessary? I'd like them not to be 100% necessary. I'd like to have a world where you don't have to take a tank, but it would fill a major role. It would be really cool if AirMech had major roles like fast unit, heavy unit, long range unit, turtle breaking unit, like that, and that they really did play equally, and they each had equal importance in the game. I mean, obviously it doesn't right now, but that's my personal kind of dream for AirMech, like how I would like it to be. And if you just drop one of those major roles, as long as you pick up the slack in the other ones, then you should be okay. Depending, I guess this would be more of a 1v1 or 2v2 scenario, whereas 3v3 you can have kind of a lot of stuff. So yeah, in my ideal AirMech, a well-balanced loadout should handle any situation, and tanks typically fit in to that as the heavy damage dealer, but ideally I would like it to not be necessary, but I don't really see that ever happening personally. Yeah. So let's go.
Can I add more something? Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, just the way I see tanks right now, especially Longhorn, just the main thing. The Longhorn is good in that, or no, its weakness is that as soon as there's micro involved or there's other AirMechs involved, Longhorn's usefulness starts to go down a bit. I mean, a lot of 1v1 unit versus unit scenarios, the Longhorn beats you like a lot of things. Obviously, the heavier stuff, it'll most likely lose. But unchecked, and unit versus unit, Longhorns are pretty good where they at right now. But yeah, it can still be countered, which is really, really good at the moment.
Yeah, actually, I like that. Mechs are actually best directly countering Longhorn, especially with the slow turret rotation. Gemini less so, but still, yeah. And micro, I guess, just general micro is really, really powerful against tanks. But unfortunately, I really don't like that it's tank on tank micro. I think it would be nice if there was a little bit more variety. I don't really have a problem with it directly, but it would be cool if it was more, you know, if we saw more variety than that. Okay, guys, we're gonna go to the very last question from the big boss, and this will also be directed at Boomhower. How long does it take to get back at being fluent and elite in AirMech? Specifically, Boomhower, who left for a large period of time, was then very competitive, taking second place in the Full Force tournament. What is the hardest part of coming back, and what is surprisingly easy to keep up?
I would have to say like like after you learn the meta, you just have to get used to the controls. Just basically like aiming and just like the way the game works compared to other games. You know, you have your first-person shooters or whatever you're into now. Like you have to switch back to this genre and switch back to how this game works. That's probably the hardest thing for me because I you know, I don't know why, but it just is. Then learning the meta is difficult with your AirMech playstyle or however you want to play it.
StarDog?
What's the question? What's the hardest thing to sort of come back to after a while?
Yeah, and what's easy to you know, to get back into, kind of thing. Like what do you hold with you, kind of thing.
A lot of it's muscle memory. Most of it's like, I know. Just one example: pressing the 1 button. Because for me, that was spamming infantry for days, like I mentioned a while back. But yeah, other than that, that's really all you can carry with, especially with a game like this that can change really big things in how you have to play. So yeah, I guess the hard thing would be adapting and switching your playstyle from something that you're already used to, especially if you haven't played in a long time. And yeah, that's just about it. Yeah.
Insomniac, have you ever taken a break, like I don't know, any kind of extended break from the game?
Yeah, actually, I took a break like the very worst time to take a break. I took like a 3-month break or so. It's I don't know. It's been a while. It was when they first introduced Jammer. I was not here when they introduced Jammer, and that really made things difficult to pick up after I came back.
That's hilarious, actually. Okay.
There was a big curve there for me. Besides the fact that I've always played aggressive and whatnot, and there's so much focus on artillery, and yeah, it took me a while, probably longer than it should have. But when certain things are introduced while you're away, like you have to like wrap your mind around, like not just knowing that it's there, but like all the implications of you using it or the enemy using it.
It's kind of weird in my case. I stopped playing for a really long time while I started casting a lot. I'd like to think that I was halfway decent at the time I quit. I was, even with a lot of, I don't know, kind of low end of the higher tier people. I think I've pretty much gotten back my, my play style and all that stuff recently because I've been playing a little bit more. But like, yeah, after trying to play more after casting almost exclusively, it was hard. You know, I tried to, even though I kind of kept up with the game and I knew what the metas were, my controls and my micro were just terrible. And I think that's kind of backwards in terms of what is difficult for a lot of really high tier players like StarDog and Boomhower, that where the muscle memory in terms of just general micro and movement is really easy to keep doing. But yeah, they just didn't really keep up on the meta and all that stuff. One thing I do is actually spec a lot of people that come back. I think I did mention this in the last episode, where one of the questions was, who do you watch? People that come back to the game, I really do notice that they are kind of playing slightly outdated builds, and they are not necessarily moving as well, but still pretty well. I mean, I watched Silbermutt a lot when he played and came back to the game for a little while, and his dogfighting and his movement were still incredible. It's just that his decision making and his unit choices and all that stuff were not necessarily what I would consider meta style. And yeah, that's just something that I think a lot of high tier players keep, general movement. And it's a little funny because the outpost energy change kind of screwed a lot of that over, because you frequently kept circling over your outposts and all that stuff once you got back to them, because you don't want to lose momentum generally. That's why you kind of see high tier players spinning in circles, because to start and stop again actually does lose a good amount of time. So a lot of people have gotten used to just moving around circles, making figure eights, just so it's kind of, I don't know if anyone plays Smash. That's one other game that I'm really familiar with, but it's sort of similar to the concept of dash dancing, where you just continually move back and forth because you are already moving. You don't have that acceleration time to deal with once you need to actually make a reaction. So but once the outpost energy changed, moving around your outposts and stuff actually was actually detrimental to movement. If you moved around, you drained the energy, and not always was that a bad thing nowadays, but yeah, it does hurt. It can be pretty detrimental. So I guess what I'm getting at is some of these muscle memory types of things can work against you, depending on what changes in the game, I guess.
Plus them.
Okay, and that's about it that we have today. So what was it that we brought up at the beginning? I completely forgot that. Start up.
AirMech Arena.
Oh yeah, Arena. So yeah, StarDog and actually Boomhower have both played Arena. I played Arena. I haven't played it very much at all. But yeah, how do you guys like Arena compared to here? Like, what has your experiences been? Let's start off with StarDog, actually, since I just talked to him.
Okay. Well, it was a face roll for a long time. Oh, jeez. Just because nobody knew how to play. Yeah, the defensive style was it was too enticing, and it's especially on a controller where you're forced to sort of be slower than you already have to be, I guess. Whereas like keyboard, you have access to do multiple things at once, or it's a bit easier anyway. But yeah, the way it is right now. Just talking with some of the community there, most of them are finding it to be that it's actually really interesting, the conversations that end up there. It's right now, the overpowered thing is the bomber. Nobody likes the bomber in that game, just because it's sort of how do I compare this? Anyone here playing Mortal Kombat? There's one character in there that everyone uses, and it's like overpowered for like newer players, I guess. But any pro player in that game could beat it if somebody abused it too much. It's sort of like that, in where Bomber is really easy to use to do a lot of damage, but if you know how to play the game, it can be countered and can be played against. But yeah, it's a bit odd right now.
Boomhower?
Okay, back when I played for the 2 weeks or whatever, I played Helix, and I thought it was the most overpowered thing ever. I don't know about other people. Just get all the kills. It's so easy. Come on, up.
Oh god.
You get like 20 kills a match. So fun.
What?
Yeah.
What modes did you guys play?
Okay, what you do is you solo queue for 3v3.
Oh god.
And you literally just go for kills, and you can't lose. Like, it's impossible because
Oh god.
they're spending all their money on respawning, and you're just like, ah! So it's long as your teammates are at least think anything, you're gonna win. Like, it's impossible not to win.
That sounds so fun.
Oh god. Yeah, I only played like in the first 1.5 to 2 months of the release, and then I haven't played since. I played a lot with Insane Firebat. We played some 2v2s, and you know they went as you would expect. We knew what meta the meta the Xbox patch was in, which was basically the broken income meta. So we're like, okay, let's just use Helix and Hawk and Waste Pouch and make like a buttload of tanks. So that's what we did, and we didn't really have to try too hard. And I'm like, man, this is getting boring. So what I did was just incrementally made my loadout crappier and crappier and crappier. I've told a lot of people this story actually, but it was fun. At one point I had Bucky's as my main tank. I was using Tangos. We weren't using moneymakers at all, and it was fun because I got to derp around. But we one time ran into a couple decent-ish players, and I was just screwing around the entire time. We were on Crater. I had a bunch of Bucky's everywhere, and it was fun until Insane. I was on Mumble on my laptop, and Insane was typing to me because he didn't have it on his phone at the time. And he said Devastator. I was like, what does that mean? So what? And then I checked the top of the map, and there was a Devastator with 9 Seekers following. I'm like, oh my god, what do I do? I only have Bucky's. I don't have anything to fight against this. So I went to try hard mode, but we were really too far behind. All I had was Bucky's, and eventually we lost. But it was really fun. I must admit it was really fun. Okay. Well, guys. I guess that concludes the 6th episode of AirMech Talk. I'm really sorry about the audio problems at the beginning. Apparently I fixed it, and it was my problem, and it was my fault. I'm really, really sorry about that. But yeah, I would like to thank my new panelists for this week, Boomhower and StarDog. Boomhower, really great to have you on. Thanks for coming. Your stories were great, and hopefully we can have you sometime in the future. But yeah, thanks for coming, man.
No problem.
No problem.
I didn't say anything to you yet, StarDog.
No. Well, no problem anyway.
Okay. And once again, Insomniac, always a pleasure to have you on. Thanks for taking the time out of your day.
Buenos nachos.
Nachos. I want some nachos. Alright, guys, so yeah, once again, thanks for watching AirMech Talk. If you want to be a panelist, I say this so often. It's like the whole send me replays thing at the end of my videos. I don't even know what to say anymore. Like, it seems like it doesn't work or it doesn't do too much, but yeah, if you're watching and you're willing to come on mic with me, come on, guys, we can talk. It'll be fun. It's a good time. We'll continue telling stories, and it'll be cool.
He holds us against our will.
But at least I give you cookies. Okay, well, damn it, I don't know how else to bribe people. But yeah, guys, come on, be panelists. It's fun. God, you see, it's fun. We're having a good time.
So I don't have to come back on here.
Exactly. Okay, listen, guys, aren't you really tired of hearing Insomniac's voice? Come on, help me out.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway,
if I'm on here like another 2 or 3 episodes in a row, I'm gonna start like doing karaoke or something, and people like show up.
The Copacabana. All right. Yeah. What? Fat Asian beast. I don't like those comments. They're not. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, guys, this is getting super awkward and draggy, so thanks for watching episode 6 of AirMech Talk. We'll try to get another good episode and set of panelists out next week. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, the AirMech Strike Down tournament will be on November 22nd. It is a 1v1 tournament. If you're interested, sign up. Everyone that participates gets a competitor's badge. Participate meaning actually play, not just sign up. So come and play, get an exclusive flair that it's actually really dying out nowadays, because a lot of people that played in tournaments have not been very active in the game recently at all. So you're not going to see too many competitors badges nowadays. I know that's not necessarily the best way to convince you to come and play, but come and play because you're going to get an awesome, cool, free, exclusive flair, guys. 1v1. You don't have to rely on teammates to check in. It's just you. Okay. Carbon sponsored, etc., etc. All right, guys. Thanks for watching once more time. This has been AirMech Talk. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.